Welcome to Hey Chaplain. My name is Jared Altick, and I'm a chaplain with the police department. On this special bonus episode, we are revisiting the interviews that I did last fall with 3 sergeants from the department that I serve. They collectively have 70 years of combined service, and every time I asked them another question, they just kept dropping more wisdom that I knew that you would want to hear. If you haven't already listened to bonus episode 38 from November of 2024, then please go back and listen to that either before you listen to this or even afterward, because it's the same group of sergeants with really great stuff to share. Make sure you don't miss a bit of this. This is my episode on the wisdom of police sergeants. Top 3 favorite jobs or roles in law enforcement.
I really enjoyed being a patrol supervisor. I actually thought I'd retire from that.
Once again, this is Sgt Angie Joyce.
Community policing, I never thought I would go into, but I actually really enjoy it and the different work there. And then narcotics.
Narcotics is one that some people, it can be hard on them.
It is.
What did you like about it?
I like the constant going. I'm one of those that likes to stay busy. So you could be as busy as you want in there. The only thing that slows you down is other resources.
What causes an officer to be in a bad mood and out of sorts? Is it the danger of the job? Is it the way the media treats you? Is it administration? What causes an officer to be in a bad mood?
All those things that you just mentioned play into it.
Mm-hmm. This is Sgt Paul Simonich.
But I think the biggest thing is, I guess I describe it as like a negative grind. Getting forced over 5 times a week, working 12-hour shifts for a whole week.
When you're supposed to be working 8.
When you're supposed to be working 8, yeah. And you don't have a choice in the matter because you're like the midnight guys, or I guess is the ones who I feel the most sorry for, because I was one of them too for a hot second when I was a rookie. I got forced over and made to come in early and stay late sometimes. But I think that there's only so much a person I think can take of that, and kind of getting, I don't know how to word that without saying a bad word.
I can bleep you. Is it not feeling appreciated? Is it more just that their time is being taken from them? What's the?
I mean, all those things. And what I have to, for as a sergeant, sometimes we've got to be the one that make that call, say, hey, sorry there, officer, but I didn't plan on this, and I'm sorry to be the one to tell you this, but you're stuck over, you're forced over another 4 hours. I know you didn't plan on that, but I mean, that's, sorry. The silver lining to that aspect is if you've got a really good shift and your shift mates know that either A, you've been forced over 3 or 4 times in a row now in the same week, or you had something that you really, 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 really needed or wanted to do, they will bite the bullet for you and take that overtime for you. And when those things kind of start to happen, that's when people start getting endeared to a shift, working with certain people. And you'll see it still even, I don't want to make it like it's a mythical type thing, but officers still will follow each other around. They'll follow a sergeant and or a captain around just because they like the culture that they've worked on and improved collectively.
How long have you been a police officer?
I have been a police officer now for 16 years.
16 years?
Yes.
And this is Sgt Kyle Hickerson. What has been your favorite job? What has made you the happiest in law enforcement?
I would say just a regular patrol officer on afternoon shifts, coming in with the same guys every day, the same shift, having a great time. The most rewarding times have been being a sergeant and being that person everybody looks up to, and coming out of a major event and knowing that you got your guys through that.
What's the difference between happiness and something rewarding?
For me, happiness would have to be every day I came in as a patrol officer and I knew that I was going to come in with the same guys every day. We're going to have a great time on my shift. I knew I was responsible for myself.
Okay.
I knew that I was going to go out and answer those calls for service. At the time, I was a district officer, so I knew that I would go out there and I'm responsible just for that district.
Always work in the same part of town.
Always.
Yep.
And I had that consistency. I knew what to be happy about that day because I knew I was consistent in that day. Being a sergeant, you're responsible for a lot of people, a lot of things, a lot of everything. I'm one of those type of people that kind of absorb the emotions of the people that I'm working with as well. So if somebody's having a bad day, I usually reach out to them, try to figure out what they're having a bad day about. Then I'm a problem solver. So I'm trying to think of like how I can help them with that. And it's constantly weighing on my mind as a leader to make their day and make sure that they're out there doing what they need to do. So when I know I'm doing my job correctly and I know that we did everything, we went home at the end of the day, everything was great, then that's rewarding to me. That knows that all my work went for something.
Yeah, helping the other officers, fixing problems in the community. Right.
Right. And that's, again, happiness. I was happy every day going to work as a patrol officer because I was responsible for myself. I didn't have to do anything else. I just needed to answer call service, answer that radio, and then I went home at the end of the day, did my 8. I knew I wasn't going to have to be called back in or anything like that, and I could start it all again the next day.
Yeah.
So that's the difference to me.
And here's another thing too on that note is that when you find a good shift, and this happened to me fairly recently, when you find a good shift, you can only really appreciate it when you've had a really crappy shift. Nobody likes each other. Nobody really gets along. Nobody's going to bite that bullet for the other one. Oh, you got forced over. That sucks, man. Well, gotta go, So it's kind of like what the old saying, there's the bitter and the sweet, and the sweet is only sweet because of the bitter.
The contrast helps. How much does it matter that you enjoy the people that you work with?
It matters dramatically. One person can essentially, ruin your whole day, depending on their outlook and how vocal they are about their outlook, or, just how vocal they are constantly telling you like how much complaining, how much they hate this place, how much they hate, coming in here, what they hate about it every single day, and then never offering those solutions of what they feel can make it better, can really wear on you, especially if you don't have any ideas of yourself, like, oh, I kind of agree with that. It can just really wear on you, and you're just like, I really don't care. I just want to come to work. Like I said, I was very happy as a patrol officer. I was very fortunate for a lot of years to work on great shifts with great people, and we enjoyed working together so much. And I miss those times as well, because it seems like we've kind of shifted away from that just a little bit.
Is there a way to cultivate that? Can you make that happen, or does it just happen?
It kind of happens over time, but it also relies on people who have that experience already, to keep instilling that, doing stuff together outside of work, getting to know each other rather than just as police officers, but just as people, and getting to know kind of what you like outside of work. Talking about stuff other than police work when you're outside of work or when you're at work. Hey, how's your family doing? How's that project going that you're working on? I myself like to work on trucks, cars, all that kind of stuff. And I had a good friend that just called me yesterday, and he asked me how my truck was going. And he's a police officer here, been a police officer here a lot longer than me. A good friend. He always talks to me, calls me, and he never starts off with like, hey, what's going on with your job? What's going on in your position, all that stuff. He asked me how my car is going, how the family's doing, all that kind of stuff. And that's his experience coming through, and it showed me what I need to do when I talk to other people as well.
Connect on a more personal level.
Absolutely. And show that you care rather than just seeking what you're calling that person for. I'm just calling you for answers. I'm just calling you because I don't know something right now. Being more personable and just actually caring about something other than yourself.
What parts of the job should motivate you to get up in the morning and be happy to go to work?
Everybody has what they like to do, what they don't like to do. You got to take both together. And it's always rewarding when you come across that person that goes, hey, do you remember me? And a lot of times I've like, yeah, I remember. Who is that? And
wait, turn around and put your hands behind your back and see if I recognize you.
Well, you don't deal with everyone in that aspect, though. But I spent a lot of time talking to, particularly when we had prostitution that walked the streets way back when. And I would actually spend a lot of time talking to them to figure out, how do we break this cycle, get you guys off the streets? And it's really rewarding when someone you don't recognize because they've been off the streets, they're off the drugs, and they've gained the weight. So that's why you don't recognize them, because they're not paper thin anymore. And they go, well, you took the time to listen to me. Wow. And it made me think. And it just really rewarding to know you can affect just that one life, and all you had to do was listen. And so it was a positive change for some of those people that say, do you remember me? So to motivate people, they've got to understand that their actions, whether they think they're doing nothing or not, have affected someone, whether positive or negative. So if you want to be that positive influence, you've got to go out and be that positive influence. Don't talk down to people, even though you want to go, hey, stupid. Say, hey, Lee, look, let's change this. What can we do to help you? And there's some of the people that you deal with, you're like, oh, I'm so tired of dealing with the same person over and over and over. You just deal with them one more time and just keep dealing with it. And just know that at some point, maybe something you said will help them.
Give yourself little projects. Because, I mean, I'm sure, I'm not special. I'm sure everyone's kind of gone a, up and down cycle throughout their career where they're riding the top of the wave and then they hit the bottom and they go back up again. Yeah. I've just tried to give myself little projects too, to kind of keep myself occupied. A couple of years ago, I did a traffic project for a month. I pulled data from Intel. What are the peak times? Obviously not shockingly, it was the rush hour times, with minimal, like 1 or 2 officers every day but Sunday, because Chaplain wants to see you at church. Every day but Sunday, just have an officer out there for 2 hours. And if I remember the numbers correctly, the total accidents in that area zone, just on one street, 18th Street, were reduced by 33%.
Just that little bit of investment.
Just a little bit of investment.
At the right time, at the right place.
And was it the actual traffic stops, or was it having an officer in the area with his or her lights on, slowing people down a little bit? So I've tried to keep myself busy on that. So I would say that if there's an officer out there, a younger officer that is struggling with those kinds of things, like, this place sucks, it's boring, all they do is answer calls. That's probably a big part of your job, but you could, there's time for you. And if you've got a decent sergeant, you can go to that sergeant and say, hey, I've got this idea. I want to try to do this. Can I kind of carve out time in our day? I understand if there's something major goes on, you need a person somewhere that I'm not going to get to do my project for the day, which was the case with my project. If you keep yourself kind of busy on your terms, I think that it's a game changer.
What's the best interaction you've had with a homeless person?
Wow. I've had a lot of interactions with homeless people. I show up at Frank Williams, a lot of faces I don't recognize. I'm just there to drop something off, and they're all screaming, hey, Sarge.
And Frank Williams is
It's a place where social workers connect with a lot of these homeless, not just homeless, but the mentally ill, people who are seeking services, and they help them connect to the different services that they qualify for, whether it's trying to find housing or food stamps or disability or needing mental health assistance.
And you go walking in there and see some of the same people.
Oh, you see a lot of the same people, but there's people I don't recognize, but they know who I am. And so they are comfortable enough to say hi to me and be happy to see me. So obviously I've made a positive impact and reputation that I'm approachable. I'm not above them. I'm one of them, and they can come to me and ask me for help.
Anything to do with any kind of social skills will help you as a law enforcement officer. We talk to everybody. We talk to any and everybody. And actually, I have to admit this about myself. I buy a lot of cars. Obviously, I'm a car guy. My wife tells me that I'm on my last car for a while because I always trade in my car, go get another car and all that stuff. And one of the things I always did, and I picked this up after buying like 2 cars, within 2 years, whatever. I always ask the dealership, who's your top salesman? And they will tell me what they are. And I was like, I don't need them. But more times than not, I would find out that salesman was once a cop.
Yes.
Because they can talk to anybody. They can do any, they can adapt to any environment that they are, that they can read people, and that's what they do on a daily basis. So if you're going to go continue your education, stuff like psychology or anything like that. Now, I know that's a lot of schooling, but it helps you become a better police officer, or nothing that has to do with law enforcement in general.
Yeah. And law enforcement will hire people with a wide variety of degrees and backgrounds. It's not like they're only looking for criminal justice majors.
Correct. They'll hire anybody with any kind of degree and, clean criminal history and all that stuff. We'll hire you there.
Any other words of encouragement for an officer that's just jaded and they're like, Sarge, I'm out. I hate this job. I don't know why I became a cop. You have any encouragement? 'Cause some of those people you let go, frankly, maybe they should go. They're the last one to realize.
That's right. What I was going to say. Is like, if you are so miserable as a policeman or woman that you wake up and hate life every single day, that it's okay to try to look for something else. And I get it. Maybe there's a time frame where you are doing that and looking for another job or another career path. And you're just kind of hanging on in the meantime. That's okay. But if you're just like, man, I hate this job, and you're not trying to move on, I would say you probably should do a lot of soul searching and try to find something to move on to, because it's not worth waking up every day hating life.
Yeah.
Like I said earlier, there's only so much of that I think a person could take.
What if your intuition is that they really are called to be a cop, but they just have something stuck in their craw, and do you have any encouragement there?
If that was the case, I would probably speculate that they aren't exactly happy in the assignment or the bid spot that they're in at the time. And I would say that, like, nothing lasts forever. Mm-hmm. One of these days, your ship's going to come in, your dream job or one of your dream jobs, besides answering calls, it'll happen.
I'll see young officers or maybe even laterals that come in and they're here for like 5 minutes and they're like, I hate this department. This department's terrible. By this department, they mean like the 10 people they know out of 300 and some. They've only been on just the one shift with the one set of supervisors. Yeah. They have no idea, but they've decided, well, I'm going to have to move on to greener pastures or whatever. And it's like you barely met us.
Yeah, I don't know.
And some of those, it's okay if they go too. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
What if an officer has become a magnet for making mistakes and getting in trouble and that kind of thing? Is there a path forward if you feel like your sergeant hates you? Is there a path forward?
There is absolutely a path forward. It starts with the decisions that you're making. Maybe you go back to particular incidents. You notice your own trends. Like I said, being able to track this. Okay, if I have my letters of discipline, what am I getting the most? Okay, is it that I don't know my general orders? Is it that I don't know policies? Maybe I should read up on those a little bit more. One of my mentors, Pete Fogarty, who brought me up through all this stuff and helped me on my path that I'm on, one of the things he taught me is like, you need to learn your general orders. Not because it's going to make you a better cop, but it's going to help you to prove that you can do your job, and then you can use general orders against those people that you're arguing against.
Right.
So the more that you know, the better off that you're going to be, and especially when it comes, of course, I like to argue. It's what I do. It's part of my job. Confidence comes from knowledge. So if you go into your job knowing that I know more than this particular person about these particular topics, you won't be getting wrote up about those certain things.
Yeah.
So if you learn your general orders, you learn what you're supposed to be doing. It is a big book.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult to read, and it's very dry to read.
But even if you are getting picked on, you'll come back with confidence and say, well, I know the general order said to do this, so that's what I did.
That's why I did it that way. The general order says I need to do it this way. And then if they tell you anything different, well, why do I need to do it differently than that if the general order says it this way? Knowing those things, and I get it. A lot of people say, I'm out here just trying to be a cop. I get it. Well, we have rules still that we need to follow in order to be a cop. So that's what I would say. Focus more or less on your general orders, and also looking inward. What am I doing? I teach sergeants, and I'm a training sergeant myself. So knowing how young our sergeant corps is, I know that we all have room to grow. So maybe as a patrolman, when you learn those general orders, you're like, hey, Sarge, I get what you're saying to me. But the general order says this, and I've read it numerous times. Are you seeing it differently from me? And it helps you, again, to communicate, because maybe you can help teach that sergeant too. But if you just keep getting in trouble over and over again, Yeah, I think it's a very big inward look that you need to take about what you're doing first, and then we can look at stuff from there.
Collecting letters of discipline does not automatically mean you're not cut out to be a cop.
No, not at all. I can tell you early on in my career, I'm not ashamed to admit it, I had a lot of letters of discipline. I think it's what helped land me in the position I'm currently in because I had the experience of getting a lot of discipline. I had a former commander actually comment, like, I never expected you to be in the position that you're in because of the discipline that you had throughout your career. There was times that I was disgruntled, but I never wanted to let my shift feel like because I was so disgruntled, I couldn't do my job. So I never took it out on them.
And you learned from it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think I've ever been written up for the same thing more than once. Because I learned from that mistake. Don't do that again. And then,
You did try to get written up for everything, but just nothing more than once.
Yeah,
right?
vast experience is what helps you get better. I mean, you don't want to just get it written up for the same thing over and over again. You want to see what carries that weight going forward. Right. Like, oh man, I knew I could do that. That's only going to cost me points, but if I do this, it's going to cost me days. That points was worth it, though. I can take those points. Maybe that day off was worth it too, but I don't know. I can tell you none of my discipline was worth it.
That's awesome.
Not at all. None of my incidents were worth it. Maybe some of the stuff I said afterwards was worth it.
Oh, there you go. There you go.
I could definitely tell you that.
If you spend too much time in the negative, this job will kill you. And you will be the most miserable person there is. You have to be grateful for the goods and the bads. I mean, you spend your time complaining, get it out of your system, but at some point you got to look at the positive aspect. Otherwise, you can't do anyone any good, nor are you doing yourself any good.
It is interesting to me that something like police work can simultaneously, in different people, build wisdom and build cynicism. The same experience can teach somebody valuable life lessons or can break them down and nearly destroy them. My prayer for you is that you learn lessons both from your mentors and through your own hardships, that you would become a stronger person and a better person for having been a cop, that you would become a better communicator in your own family, and a better neighbor because you know how desperately people need help. Most of all, I hope that you understand that there is a special purpose for you being here right now. It's like the quote from Mark Twain: "The two most important days in a man's life are the day he's born and the day he finds out why." The views expressed here are the personal views of the hosts and our guests and do not necessarily represent the views of any law enforcement agency or its components. Thank you for listening to Hey Chaplain. And as always, pray for peace in our city.